Hello, everyone. Welcome to Adobe Live. I'm your host, Fabiola Lara. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our Adobe Live channel on YouTube and follow us on Instagram at Adobe Live to stay up to date on the latest streams, updates, and so much more. Today on the show, we have videographer and video editor Cyrus Yoshi Tabar with us to show us how to make mouth-watering cooking videos for social media. All right, before we get to work, Cyrus, let's see who's in the chat. We have Wade, we've got Jack. I'm so excited to have everyone here today. Cyrus, why don't you kick things off by giving us a little intro and tell us what we're doing today?
Sure, yeah. A little intro into what we're doing today, I guess, is we'll be covering some editing, basically, like pretty straightforward video editing, but I will say it's all about social media and how to cater to your platforms that you're going to be releasing your content on. So it's all about how to edit for social, and in my case, it's how to edit mouthwatering food content for social. So we'll be covering everything from just like basic editing, of course, and then on to color and sound, and then a sort of final pass that you might give to a project. And then if we have time, we'll go to delivery. But we'll be going through all those. Yeah.
I'm so excited, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get really hungry while we stream here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get right into work?
Sure, yeah. So I guess I'll switch over here. Hopefully you can all see that. And is my Zoom thing, can you see this Zoom thing?
We're
No?
good. We're
You're
good.
good. Okay, good. Thank you. So this is my website, my portfolio, if you will. So my work ranges, it's not just food content. It's actually not as much food content. It's mostly like either nonfiction film sort of stuff, short film, I should say, to like commercial stuff. I was just at Curology and did a lot of work for them there. But yeah, nonfiction work. I'll just play some stuff without the audio just in the background here. So this is actually my film.
Award-winning work. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it did well in festivals, and I'm really grateful for that for sure. I met a lot of great people through this film. But yeah, as you can see, it's a crazy editing style. I'm very much about like, of course, making the story and making the sort of stylistic choices that you might make for a film in the edit, or
Right.
shooting for the edit, obviously. I mean, these are really basic things to say, but I think it's very crucial, of course. And so I like to treat archival in many different ways and all of that good stuff. So yeah, so this is all like in-camera effects and just basic editing, really, just kind of like movie magic type stuff. So
Nice.
yeah.
I'm sure Wade could drop the link to your portfolio so people can watch the full clip, as opposed to this little preview here
Yeah.
by going over to your portfolio, cyrustabar.com. And you've done so many different kind of work. We have your documentary kind of style work, your
Hmm.
commercial work, and the
Oh
Meet
God.
Zoe and Asher.
wow, we're watching it.
Wow, yeah. That
So
happened.
we've got an editor here covering that has so much experience doing all kinds of work, but today we're focused on food. And this is amazing because it's like super trendy on TikTok. I mean, food always has been, but just capturing it in a way that's compelling, it's kind of trickier than it seems, I think. So I'm really excited to see how you edit this.
Yeah, it is tricky, I would say, in that it's not your conventional, like if you kind of came up in sort of conventional editing and for like either movies, TV, if you have that sort of thing in mind, it's a very different beast, social
Yeah.
media. So yeah, we'll be covering like sort of tips and tricks on how to think about your editing for social specifically. So yeah, I just wanted to really quickly show you, this is sort of what I'm talking about today is I am a content creator for mostly camp cooking and barbecue. So this is my page on Instagram, for example. And, I don't have a huge following or anything. I don't really do it for like more followers necessarily. I just do it because I like to do it. And so it's just fun kind of like releasing content in that
I've
way. And
I've
yeah.
watched a lot of these clips. You deserve more followers. I'm sure that'll come in due
Yeah.
time. But these clips, they're so like compelling, and the sound audio, like the sound itself is really captivating. So I'm really, really excited to see how you edit this using Premiere Pro.
Cool. Should we just dive into it?
Let's go. Let's get to
Okay.
work.
All right. Let's do it. Let's go back to Premiere here. So I wanted to just preface all of this by saying there's a lot that goes behind the scenes before you even get into Premiere, of course, like organization for that's like the main thing that I just wanted to mention. So
Yes.
making sure that your project is organized in a way that makes it easy for you to navigate Premiere. So I won't show you Finder and I won't go into that right now, but I will show you a little bit about how my project is organized for social specifically. So what I
Ooh.
mean by that is I have this very basic, very basic organization. And I will preface this by saying that, like, for my bigger projects, for commercial stuff or nonfiction films, it's much more complicated than this. It's much more
Right.
complex. But for social, I've found that having some sort of simple layout that it's not the end of the world if I post something strange or whatever with a different edit, I can always remove it, kind of thing. It's not like picture locked like a commercial is. So my organizational structure kind of reflects that in that it's very simple, it's easy for me to get around, and yeah. So I'll show you right now.
So you don't have to overcomplicate it, though you could,
Yeah,
because you can
you
edit
could.
really complex stuff in Premiere, but you could also just keep it simple and streamline it. And I think that's really
Mhm.
helpful to keep in mind because it's easy to overcomplicate something simple just because you're used to it.
Yeah, for sure. Just because you're used to it, or you think like maybe you don't even have experience in it, and you think like, oh, this is something that's super complex and I'm never
Yeah.
going to be able to do it. No, that's definitely not the case. So just starting from the very top, right? Again, like sort of under the hood, is I have my projects, effects, and an archive bin. And so bins, what are bins, right? A bin is basically a folder. I can create new bins here using, let me actually zoom in if I can. Right there.
Nice.
Nice. So yeah, this little folder thing, I can just create a new bin. It's an empty folder that I can put anything that I want into it, mainly media, of course. I'll delete that. And what that looks like eventually is this. So in my bin here for coffee, what I did last year, I have a or not a project file, a sequence, and then I have the raw footage. So again, it's very simple. Normally, I would say in a commercial project, I would have all of this stuff kind of in its own place. But I
Right.
found for social, because each of what I shoot for food, right, it's like a whole recipe.
Yeah.
So each time I shoot, I have it in a special bin, and then I just put the sequence in that bin, and it just keeps things organized. So
Got it.
that's pretty much it. It's very boring stuff, but I just want to emphasize like this keeps you sane. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you have multiple different, let's say, social videos within
Hmm.
this project.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I have
Nice.
all of my TBBQ stuff for Instagram and TikTok all in this project. So
That's really
far,
handy because then you can reference other clips
yeah.
from previous takes, right?
For social, it's really handy because at first I was doing everything as a new project and I thought, wait, I can't like repost stuff easily. I can't mash stuff up, cut stuff together easily. So this is really great for social just because you can reference stuff later or that you've done in the past, but also you can
Yeah.
grab all that media
Just
very easily. Yeah,
repurpose the
yeah.
media. Wow, that's really like I haven't really thought of that just because I'm so used to creating a new project for every new video, but you're right. When each video is max a minute, why not
Yeah.
just
Hmm.
keep it all in one project? And that way you can reference stuff and you don't always have to be making new stuff for every single video, which I think
Hmm.
is kind of like something underrated in social media content creation.
Yeah. I've just started kind of getting into that where it's like you're reposting stuff. But I'll show you, maybe if we have time, I'll show you later like what a repost might look like
Yeah.
in terms of an edit. So anyway, so yeah, so that's bins, very simple. I won't go through any of the other stuff in here. It's relatively self-explanatory, but I did want to touch upon this bar that you see your name and you see frame rate. These are like the default things that you would see when you open Premiere for a new project. And I
Mhm.
just also want to maybe, yeah, so I'm going to use the tilde key a lot today just to kind of like sort of zoom in on certain window panels. But that's the tilde key. So here I have my project, and I just wanted to kind of show you the metadata display here. So there's a lot of stuff in here, obviously, that I don't use
We don't
necessarily.
always use,
I don't
yeah.
always use it, especially for social. I need maybe different kinds of things. For maybe a commercial, this is great, or a film, this is great, but I want to customize it. So
Mhm.
you just right click on that, metadata display, click on that, and then you'll get this sort of like, it doesn't look familiar to the metadata display, but you'll see very easily that the top little field here,
Mhm.
you'll see all of your metadata. And this is how it is displayed in your project panel. So for example, frame rate, I think that's good because maybe I might, do something in slow motion. So I want to see the
Right.
frame rate. But media start, media end, maybe I don't really need that. Duration, I don't need it. In points, out points, I don't need it. But when we start to get to, for example, video usage is great because it'll tell you what other sequences that your clip might be used in.
Oh,
So
cool.
that's kind of nice. Audio usage is the same. Just to keep things simple, I'm going to deselect a lot of these so that we can really see what we can
Cleaning
do
up the
with this.
workspace here.
Yeah, tape name, don't need that. Maybe a description would be good. A log note could be good. Capture settings, scene shot, I'll just leave it in there. Good hide, I'll leave that in there because maybe some people might want that. Another one I wanted to see here is proxies. Proxy.
Ooh,
So
okay.
if you're using really high resolution footage, and we won't get
Mhm.
into like what that means, but if it's on like a cinema camera, for example, or even if it's on your iPhone and your computer is having a hard time dealing with it, you can create proxies, which I'll get to in a second. And in order to see if those proxies are actually working, uh, and I'll again get to what a proxy is in a second, we need this metadata display to show us that. So I'll just click
Nice.
OK there. And now look at our metadata display. It's exactly what we
Cleaned up.
want. It's very cleaned up, and it's only the stuff that we want. So I can start marking stuff like, I really like this clip, I'm going to check mark it. I don't like this clip, I'll check mark that. So
Oh,
as you can see, proxies, there's nothing here yet.
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 You got
And
to
I
stay tuned
won't,
for that, folks.
stay tuned, yeah. I won't actually create proxies in here because it usually takes a minute to actually create
Right.
those, but I will show you basically what this means. So if you do your drop down menu, I'll do this. Normally you're doing it for a batch.
Hmm.
Excuse me. There's a fly around me, which is great. So proxy, create proxies. When you do that, you'll get to this screen here. Normally you can do like a low res and stuff like that. So what this does is it basically creates a twin of your file that is smaller and easier for your computer to play back and to edit with. So really simple, but it can save you a lot of time because sometimes if you have, as an example, you're playing back your video and it just gets like really stuttery, I guess, if you
Yeah.
will, then maybe proxy is a good thing to have. So again, I'm not going to actually create it. It takes a little bit of time for your computer to do it, but once it does it, you'll see that proxies will say attached. And that's good. If it says
Nice.
not attached, that means that you have to kind of
You
look for
got to
them.
redo it.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got to redo it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I feel like that is such a handy tip, especially because now everyone is starting to film in 4K. I mean, at
Hmm.
minimum now. And the files get really big. And, if your computer's not keeping up with it, this is a really good solution to kind of buy you some time until you either upgrade your computer or just need to do it, even just because you have a lot of footage. That's like a whole other thing. You need more space. So,
Hmm.
super
Hmm.
handy trick. And I hope that if you guys haven't used them before, now you're inspired to use them. And I had no idea that there was a way to see that they were attached. I've always just hoped for the best.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, usually it works and it's like great and you don't have to look at that. But there are
Yeah.
times where maybe they become disengaged and you
Yeah.
have to reattach
Something
them. So
breaks and you need to reattach them. Yeah. And
yeah,
you'd
yeah,
want to know that ahead of time before you start thinking you're going a little nuts.
yeah, yeah.
You're like, why isn't it
So
working? That's probably
yeah.
why.
So anyway, so that's that. I just wanted to give you, I don't have like a presentation deck to show you or anything, but I will say that what you're about to see, like I mentioned before, is I'll go over editing. So we just covered sort of the prep section. What we're about to move on to is the edit itself. And so, yeah, we can dive into that. And right after that, we'll go into color and sound and stuff. So,
So
yeah,
excited.
yeah.
Now, I feel like
Um,
with food editing,
mhm,
you're showing a process, so there's a bit of a narrative already in place, but figuring
mhm.
out the really interesting parts of the edit, that's really difficult. So I'm really curious to see how you're gonna show us your process here because you could make it could come off really boring if you're not careful,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
yours are not. So if you want to edit food content, this is the stream for you. So you can make sure it's catchy and not just kind of another coffee video or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, coffee is like way overdone. I've done it way too many times. But anyway,
It's
so
great.
yeah, food content though, to your point, I think is it's great when if you are stuck creatively and you just like, I don't know what to film. Well, you gotta eat, right? So you can film that. And it's just like it can be as anything from like just an exercise for yourself on like camera angles and how to capture the action and editing to making content if you really wanted to. So I think food content or food filming food and editing with your recipes or what have you is really great because it's like you said, it's like there's a story there already. It's just
Yeah.
like baked into everything, pun
Hmm.
intended. So yeah, so in
But
terms of that,
capturing it well takes practice.
capturing it well is very hard, I will say. But one thing that I want to mention too is like just use your phone. You don't have to have a crazy camera. Just use your phone. You can use it handheld. That's fine. That's how I kind of started this whole thing. So once you start to do that, you'll start to realize like, oh, maybe I need some better light, or maybe I just actually want this on a tripod instead.
Hmm.
Or once you get into the edit, you'll say like, actually, I needed a shot to be moving in a certain way or something like that. So you learn quite a lot. And all of that stuff you can take to your other work.
Definitely.
So yeah, I wanted to start with this prep sequence here. So I've
Ooh.
laid it out: prep, edit, edit B, color, sound, and then a final pass. So I'm just
You
new to
like
this
keep
zooming
a
thing.
sequence at every stage.
Yes, yes. So that is non-destructive, right? Non-destructive editing. I don't want to destroy anything so that I can't go back to it later. I want to always be able to leave cookie crumbs for myself so that I can come back to it later. That's a big thing that I've taken from my professional work is that when you're working with a client or even just your own project, you make an edit and then you say, actually, what I did last week, that was cool. I want to go back to that. And if you've
Right.
destroyed everything, it's really hard to go back to that. So I like to keep, once I have my prep, I actually make selects from there and then make another sequence that has all my selects in there so that I can always go back to this prep sequence and reference my raw footage.
Got
So,
it.
yeah,
So this prep sequence has all of the clips for that
it's
video?
all raw footage. Yeah.
Got it.
So all of this, it's unedited. I'll just play it here. Um, don't really need sound in this case, but is it? Oh, sound is a little bit
You could just
clippy.
maybe hit mute on the left while we're replaying it.
Okay, it's not letting me do that. Okay, yeah, I can just hit mute. That's fine. So anyway, you get the idea with this one though. It's right. It's just raw
It's like the
footage.
real time
It's
footage.
real time. It's what did this take me? About almost 15 minutes. So it didn't take very long to make it. What we're going to be doing, I will fast forward a little bit, is we'll be making rice in
Ooh,
this pot here
outside.
outside, cooking outside, and then we're also making some gyoza. So gyoza, little camp pro tip is that gyoza, frozen gyoza, is really great for camping because it's frozen.
Yeah.
So you can keep it frozen in your cooler and then like dish it out whenever you want to. It's a good one. So if you're ever
After a long
camping,
hike, that's nice.
gyoza is like really good. It's not like your usual like ramen or hot dogs or something. It's like it's kind of a nice treat. So that's a different conversation for a different kind of class. But
Maybe we can have a vote in the comments if you prefer a gyoza or a hot dog,
oh
like the little
yeah,
emojis. Now that
actually
I think there's emojis for both of those things.
there
Maybe
are. Yeah.
throw ramen in too. That
Yeah,
way
throw ramen in there.
we'll
Ramen is
see.
a good one. You can get some good ramen and make some good ramen. Top ramen is great.
Campfire ramen,
I don't want to
yes.
hate, but I think there's some good options out there. So to get started, pretend, okay, let's just pretend that I don't have
Pretending.
any sequences at all yet. I just have raw footage. So that's what you see here. This is all my raw footage. I'll right click, and you can do this in a few different ways, of course. What I love to do is just new sequence from clip, and I'll just zoom in just to make sure that you can all see that.
Yeah.
So I'll click on that now. That creates a new sequence for me. It's really great. It's exactly what you saw, but look, it's on its side because I
Right.
filmed it vertically, right?
Yes. This is a classic first, you start shooting vertical video, you put it in Premiere, now you're like, wait a minute.
You know what? I didn't want this.
Totally disoriented. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so why did I shoot this vertically? Well, of course, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you've been on social media, it's all vertical video, right? And it's like kind of like made for vertical video. So
Yeah.
that's how I shoot it. I want my food to be as full screen as possible.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's why I'm shooting vertically is just I want it to take up your full phone screen kind of thing. So anyway, how do I go about fixing this, right? Before I get in, you'll notice it's very flat. The color is kind of gray almost. We're gonna fix that later, so don't worry about that yet. But I will go to my effects controls and click on a clip that I want. Let's do this first clip I don't need, so I'm going to delete that actually. And just do that because I just know that that's where I started.
Okay.
So I'll just do one clip here. We're going to do not scale, but we can do rotation. Now the thing here though, I want to point out is that let me think. The best way to do this is through sequence settings. Okay, so we're going to do a combination of a few things. So before we get to our rotation, we have to look at our sequence settings. Because if I rotate this video, I'll just show you. It's rotating, that's great, it's vertical, but then I got, what? Like these, basically it's going to be black bars on the side of my video,
Right.
and the video isn't actually horizontal. So vertical. So I need to make the actual workspace that I have for my video, vertical. So,
Yes.
so I go to my sequence up here. Can you see my bar up here?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'm clicking on sequence at the top bar, sequence settings at the very top. And you can see I'm working in a UHD or 4K workflow or timeline or sequence, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to switch these, okay? And not even just switch them. I'm going to lower the sort of frame size so that I'll show you in a second why I do that. But basically, it's so that I can zoom in on things and keep my resolution.
So, okay.
So in my case, I know that vertical video for me in this specific project needs to be 1080 by 1920. So usually you hear 1920 by 1080. That's a horizontal aspect ratio.
That's
I just
YouTube.
want to,
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's like for YouTube, for anything more horizontally oriented, that's what you would do. For this, I just want to reverse that. So you can see here, my aspect ratio is 9 by 16. That's perfect. That's what we want.
Okay.
Time base 23976. That's great because that's what I filmed it in. So that's fine. I don't want to change that. Everything else, you don't have to touch. Don't even worry about it. At least not for this kind of work. I don't think you really need to worry about that. So say okay. And then it tells you, hey, I'm going to change everything here. Just so you know, So your
A little
preview
warning.
files, a
Yeah.
little warning, just say, okay, that's fine. And now you see, okay, now I have an actual frame size that is vertical. That's great. My video is still
Not
horizontal.
fitting in there,
It's not
but
fitting.
we're halfway there.
We're halfway there. So rotation, I can just type in some numbers here, or I can kind of like see, oh, okay, if I go positive 90, that's good. So that's great. I'm in a good place, but now it's huge. If you can remember a couple steps back, I changed my sequence settings from 4K to HD. So I need to scale my clip down now.
So now I have to resize it so that it
Resize
fits
it.
the new frame.
Exactly. So I'm going to go 50 because it's like 50%.
Mm-hmm.
So that's easy for me to do, which is great. I don't have to do any crazy math or do some weird numbers in here. So I have, just to recap, my rotation is at 90, scale is at 50, and I did my changes in the sequence settings. So now this is looking good. Like, this is finally, I'm at a place where I can like start to maybe edit a little bit.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. So before I go on to the next step, which is the edit itself, I'm going to use, well, I'll just do everything. I'll try not to use hotkeys today, but I will maybe mention some of them. So I'm going to copy this, right? Copy that clip and select everything else here.
Because those clips are still the old.
They're still old, yeah. I mean,
they're untouched.
Yeah, they're in the right sequence, like frame size, because we changed the sequence settings, but they're still untouched, really. So I want to paste what I did here in my effects controls. I want to paste that to the rest of these clips. So I'll just right click on that and paste attributes. So this is something that I think is like a hidden gem for a lot of people. So paste attributes is really great because what that does is it doesn't copy and paste the actual clip. That's not what we want. We want to copy and paste the motion. And so, which includes frame size, scale, and position and like rotation and all that. So I clicked OK, and now I can see everything looks great, and I can start my edit.
The hotkey for that would still be the same Command C, Command V for pasting?
No, actually. I mean, you can do Command C for copying, but for pasting your attributes, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have to make that a custom hotkey, I believe.
Yeah, I think you have to make that a custom hotkey.
And in order to do that, I won't go into too much of it, but you can go to keyboard shortcuts under your Premiere Pro, and you can actually customize stuff like that. So it's really great.
So if you accidentally copy and paste it standard, you might get that overwrite with the clips and be frustrated. And that's why you got to set up that custom hotkey or do the manual right click paste attributes like you showed us just now.
Yep. Yeah. So the attributes is the key, right? And then also, just as a side note, if I said like, actually, I don't want that, I want something else, I can remove the attributes too. So I can say, I can just remove all the motion and it kind of resets it basically.
Yeah, that's one way to just like quickly apply that across all your clips.
Yeah.
Now, Cyrus, we have a question here from Jeff, which is, why are there so many audio tracks in the sequence, in the new sequence that you made? Which I'm seeing here, yeah, there's quite a few audio tracks.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there are. Good question. Okay. It's how I shot it, really. So I'm shooting this on, I think I shot this on a C70, a Canon C70. So you get the option to have more than 2 tracks of audio, or even more than like a 1 track kind of thing. Like if you were to shoot on an iPhone, it kind of shows up as 1 track.
Yeah.
Anyway, so on the C70, what I'm doing is I'm using the Rode. Can I mention other products? Is that okay?
Go for it.
So I'm using a Rode, I think it's called a Video Mic Go 2. It's a lav mic that has 2 inputs.
Yeah.
And so I use that because it like gives really rich ASMR-y type audio quality. I would love to use a boom and all of that, but it's just me and I'm cooking at the same time.
And you're outside and you're also doing the cooking and there's not someone there just watching your levels. So
it's a lot. Yeah. So normally lav mics aren't used in this way, but I found because my shot is so tight, I can get that lav mic pretty close.
While still remaining off camera.
Yes, exactly. So
nice.
So anyway, I have that. This is way too long-winded answer for this question, so I apologize. But basically,
They
what
want to
I
know.
yeah, I have in the camera, I have the Rode Video Mic Go 2, right? I have that going into channel 3 and 4. And channels
Got it.
1 and 2 are just nothing. They just don't have anything in them. So
Ah,
so
so that's
actually
why when you automatically made clips to sequence, it added
it just added everything,
all the
yeah, from
audio.
that. Yeah, because in these raw clips, there are 4 channels of audio inside of there. So,
There you go.
yeah,
Amazing
so
question, Jeff. I was wondering the same thing.
that was a very good question. And sort of another tidbit on that is like, I don't want these blank audio tracks. I just don't
Hmm.
want them. They're
They're
useless,
blank.
really,
Yeah.
for me. And not only that, they're like cluttering up my timeline. So,
They're
yeah.
holding us back,
They're
quite
holding us
frankly.
back. So you can do, I will have to use a hotkey here in a way. So you use
Yeah.
Option and you hold Option and then you click and drag and you can basically, select very specific clips because if I didn't hold Option and I just click and drag, it click,
It's
it
going to
selects
select
everything.
everything. Got it.
Don't want that. Hold Option, select what you want, delete that. Cool. Then of course I can say, right click and delete. Can you even see that on your screen? I don't know. I'll try and
I'm
do
seeing it.
this. Okay, so there you go. So delete tracks. And I want to delete all empty tracks, right? Delete audio
Oh,
tracks, delete
nice.
video tracks, and say okay. And that kind of cleans me up a little bit. So
Down to the minimum.
yeah, down to the minimum. So it's really nice
Okay.
to have that for sure. So yeah, Jeff, thank you for that question for sure.
And if
I
you guys
wonder if,
have any
Mhm.
other questions, this is just a little reminder for the chat. If you've got a
Yeah,
question for Cyrus while we're working here, drop them in the chat, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're watching on Behance, and I'll be sure that he's able to answer them for you. Okay.
yeah.
Now let's get down to the edit. What's
So
going
let's
on
get
here?
into the edit. So basically what I've done, and I'll just show you like a couple things here, and I
Mhm.
won't do the whole thing because it's going to take way too long. But for example, like if I'm trying to make selects, right?
Mhm.
So selects are all the gold of your footage. I don't want all of this stuff. It's 15 minutes. I just want the gold, right? So for example, if I say here, like I really want that movement, for
Got
example.
it.
I can do a few. I can do this in a few ways. The mouse way, right, using your cursor, is just going over and selecting your razor tool, and you can do that way. You can also just hit C, and it'll change your mouse to the razor tool. So I'll cut there, and then maybe I'll play a little bit more. I'm using my arrow keys to go slowly,
Mm.
uh, and cut again. I'll just zoom in actually.
Yeah.
So I'll cut again. And let's say that this is my select. This is the gold that I want to
That's the
edit
bit you
with.
want. Yeah.
That's the bit I want. What I do, and this is like totally personal to everybody, but it goes in that line of thinking of non-destructive editing. So
Mhm.
I'll put that on just channel 2, on V2 here, right?
Okay.
I just move that up. Easy. The hotkey for that, just so you know, is you select the clip, you do Option up arrow, and it like just moves it up.
Just nudges it up. That's
Yeah.
really smart.
So now I'll just go through and make some cuts, and this is totally arbitrary, but I just wanted to show you what that kind of
Sample.
looks like.
Got it.
So let's say, for example, that like this is all I want, right? This is all
Mhm.
I got. I had a really bad day filming, and I only have 4 clips to work with. So this is, let's just say that this
Hey,
is what
this
I want.
first day.
Yeah, it's the first day. So I will go to this, for example, this is the sequence that we're in right now. So I will go here. Once I have all my selects in my entire sequence, I'll
Mhm.
go here, right click, duplicate that. So now I have a copy,
Okay.
right? And you can name this something else. I would probably name this something like selects or maybe
Okay.
even edit, dependent on where I am
Edit
in my
A if you
process.
were this was the first
Edit
one.
A, yeah, something like that. And then I can, oh yeah, hotkey is the back or forward slash, backslash. I always get those confused, but it's right under your delete key for a lot of people on a Mac, at least. So I'm just seeing my whole timeline. And now I have my selects here, right? That's great, but
Mhm.
I have all this other stuff that I don't need. So I can, again, hold option, click and drag all my other stuff, and delete it. I did too much actually, so I'm just going to do this video track here because I don't want to delete my audio.
Precious audio, we're keeping
precious
that.
audio. And I'll get my selects, bring them down here. And actually, like all this stuff I don't need to. So you can see here that I'm just kind of deleting the stuff that I don't need, right? Let me make sure I'm doing this right. So like this, and then like that. Yeah, okay, cool. So anyway, so you can see in terms of my process that I'm just getting rid of, I'm trimming the fat, if you will, or I'm just like trimming all the stuff that I don't need.
Without destroying the previous prep sequence.
Exactly. I can always go back to prep and say, actually, I think I got something over here, right? And I can grab that and bring it into my edit sequence. So now that I have this and my selects here, I'll just delete these. So this is looking great. I have some other stuff that I don't need. What I generally do.
The audio tracks again.
Oh yeah. Sorry. You're going to see those. You're
yeah, those will be around everywhere.
Yeah. They're going to be around.
You know how to get rid of them now.
Yeah, Jeff, I am sorry. So I usually just like get rid of, empty spaces kind of thing. And what I end up with is this. This is sort of what I end up with. This is all my selects. So this is all the stuff that I moved up to that top row there.
To the second row,
to the second row. And I just moved it back down. And let's...
So now this is just like the best footage.
Best of the best stuff, yeah.
Got it.
And it's
minus those empty tracks.
Minus the empty tracks, okay?
Great.
So I'm going to be doing that throughout the rest of this thing. So anyway, so that's that. Now I have my selects and I'm ready to start actually like really whittling it down to what it's going to be as a final product.
Right.
So I'll just show you, and I want to make sure that this isn't too loud for you all. So I'll go to here and just turn some of that down.
This is just to, preserve all of our ears here on the playback. So
exactly.
A little
so
behind
normally,
the scenes there for the audience.
Normally I wouldn't be turning it down this much, but just for this live stream, I don't want to blow your ears out. So I'll just have this playing a little bit. So cool, great. This is sort of what I have. You can see, actually, I'll change this view a little bit so that you can see it a little bit better. So you can see, it's like, it's just like jump cuts, right?
Yeah.
Now that's the first note, I guess, on social media editing is that jump cuts have become normal. They're just like, back even 10, 15 years ago, jump cut was like, oh, I don't know, you only use jump cuts for specific effects.
Have to,
yeah. So,
last resort.
Jump cuts, no, that's not the case anymore, especially for social. Like people have gotten used to seeing jump cuts. And so I think you can use them very creatively and also just as like a way to move your story along.
Yeah.
So it's totally fine. That's what you see here. I use that a lot. And it's just basically like a lot of times one angle, jump cutting to different positions. So that's what I have.
Because even though the jump cut itself is a bit jarring, right? We're going from one movement to the next. We're still in the same point of view, and that kind of keeps us a little bit more balanced as the viewer anyway.
Yeah. And I think there's like obviously different ways to do it, and you can do this like in multiple angles and stuff, but kind of going back to like me being just alone filming these, cooking at the same time, trying to make good production value and that kind of stuff.
And good food.
And good food that I don't waste it. Like I eat this food afterwards. Right. This was my lunch that day. So, like I just want to keep it simple for myself as much as possible.
And realistic. Like I think that's totally realistic. You don't have 3 cameras shooting at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is how you could get those different angles. If you just have one camera, this is totally doable and it still looks great. You can still have a great edit.
Yeah. So for social, it works and it's really straightforward. And so it works for me. So anyway, we have our edit and I just wanted to show you like this is sort of what I would whittle it down to at this stage. As you can see, if we go to the end of our sequence, it's about 1 minute, 24 seconds. So it's not bad. I would like to get that down. So what can we do to get that down? Now, if I play this back for you, I'll just turn the sound all the way down at this point. I'm going to use some hotkeys here. So I
Yeah.
wish I had some display, but the hotkeys that I'm using are going to be Q, W, J, K, L, up and
Okay.
down arrows,
Okay.
left and right arrows, of course. So those are generally, I would say, the ones that I'm using the most when at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, right and left arrows, obviously, or maybe not obviously, I don't know, are going frame by frame. This is super helpful. A lot of people, I taught ages ago.
Yeah.
I was teaching in higher education, and I noticed a lot of people just were using their mouse to scrub frame by frame. It's very hard to do that. So just use your left and right arrow. It's easy. But in here, plus, I'm using the plus sign to zoom in. Here, I want to get, maybe this is too much. Like, I don't even need this stuff. I want that spark. That's all I want.
Right.
So I'm going to use my Q to basically do this, right? I want to do that, but not using my mouse.
Okay.
So my playhead is exactly where I want that clip to start. I use Q, and it cuts it exactly where I wanted it, right? And you'll see
It
that
got
my
rid of
timeline,
everything from
exactly,
before that point.
yeah. Of course, I could do that like with my mouse. I just go here, do that, and then I delete that. But
It
that's
gets
like
repetitive. It
yeah,
gets tiring fast.
exactly. So that's what I'll do right now. I'll do some of that. I'll scrub forward. Normally, I'm watching these clips all the way through, but just for the sake of time, I will kind of scrub through. So this clip is really long, right? If I do this,
Yeah.
it's a little too long. So
I mean, yeah, we're editing for social, so it's, down to those seconds to keep people captivated. So you want to edit out the fat. I mean, for maybe YouTube, it would be totally fine, a long form video. But for what this video is for, yeah, even that was too long.
Yeah. The first like 3 seconds are critical for social. So yeah, it's good to grab that attention,
shot. Yeah.
Action shots, yeah. That's good. Yeah, we'll be talking about that, Fabiola. So action shot is right here, and then after that spark, I don't want it, so I'm going to use W.
Okay.
And that trims that out. So now I only have spark, bam,
so
and now
it removed everything after that point from that clip.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
So that's Q and W, and using a little bit of your right and left arrows, up and down arrows kind of moves you from clip to clip or backwards. So that's a really good one too. J, K, and L, really simple. J is reverse, K is stop, L is forward or play. So I can use L right now to play. This is just normal speed. I can use LL or LLL to go 2 times, 3 times. But yeah, so I'll just like go through. I'm going to go through and make Q, W, just going through and making it shorter, right?
And you're just keeping mostly kind of the captivating action shot in every clip, right?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to do, is like get it to its bare bones, the essential action.
Yeah.
That's
the
really
essential action, because then the viewer can fill in kind of what happened in between, and it's not for a vertical video.
Yeah. For some reason, Siri just turned on. Sorry.
It happens.
So keeping the action is really, really big. And so after I've done that, so if you can remember too, I started with basically just selects. So this was like a rough version of my edit. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to get to a point where I can move on to like the fine tuning of an edit. So normally I have that all in like one edit, and you can do the same process that we did before if you really wanted to, of like moving stuff up to a channel, if you will. But just to fast forward just a little bit here, I've gone through and sort of trimmed a little bit. So you can see here in this sequence, now we're at a minute. So I've trimmed about 14, 15 seconds, right? So okay, that's good. That we're looking a little bit better.
Making progress there.
We're making progress.
Sure. Is there a time range that you usually like to aim for when you're creating social content?
Yeah, for food, and this is like a personal preference, I usually try to keep it within like 30 seconds to a minute.
Yeah.
That seems to be pretty good. And like for food content, it's like keeps it engaging enough, but also I want people to have to rewatch it. Not have to, but like I want them to want to rewatch it. And if it
Right.
was really long, there's less of a chance, I think, that people would rewatch. Why do I want people to rewatch it? I don't know, because I worked really hard on it, and that's why, I guess. So,
And it
oh,
doesn't hurt to get those plays up, those
yeah,
views
yeah,
up,
yeah, exactly.
and, help yourself. I mean, you're pouring all this time and energy into it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
may as well keep that in mind while you're editing.
Hmm.
Because you can't be
So,
oblivious to the ecosystem that it's going into at this
no,
point.
no, definitely not. Like whether it's wanting more followers or just getting people to engage with your post, like one individual post, whatever that may be, it's kind of like, you have to think about that before you're creating your content even just to see like what am I doing? Why am I making this stuff?
Right.
So I did want to just take a quick detour to this. So this is just
Dun,
an
dun, dun.
example of Instagram, right? So if you're
Mm-hmm.
posting to Instagram, TikTok has the same kind of thing. Reels resolution size, they're looking for 9 by 16. They're looking
Mm-hmm.
for 30 FPS, so that's interesting,
Interesting.
and a minimum resolution of 720. So that's interesting that they say that because it's probably what their algorithm is looking for, I would think.
Right. It's interesting that you pull up. We're looking at the cold hard facts here,
Yeah. Hmm.
as described by Instagram, and yeah, 30 FPS. And from what I remember, the sequence that we had, I think, was 23
23,
something.
24. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not going by Instagram's, I guess, minimum
Dun
requirements,
dun.
but that doesn't mean that I can't upload it. I can
Right.
still actually upload, like the app lets you upload 24
Mm-hmm.
FPS or 2398, whatever you want there. But I think what this means, and I could be wrong, but I think the algorithm of Instagram sometimes favors these things. These things.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it's just a computer or whatever. So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
if they have it looking for 30 FPS, it could be to your benefit to create in 30 FPS.
Could be, yeah, because that's what they're telling you to do.
Yeah.
So maybe it's good for me to think about that in the future.
Yeah.
I'm maybe, I don't know, like I'm old, I guess. So I like 24 FPS. I think the motion looks nice. I think with food it looks great. But maybe I should try 30. I don't know. That's
I
a
mean, I
whole other
think it's also
conversation.
just a part of the fact that most people shoot on their phones and you're able to kind of
Yeah.
choose
Hmm.
30 FPS easily, or it's defaulted sometimes. So, that's kind of the world that we're in now. So maybe for the next one you could give it a shot. But again,
Yeah.
all those things are marginal to the fact, is the content resonating with people? I think that's
Yeah. Hmm.
always the primary thing you need to chase.
Yeah. And if your stuff looks better horizontal, then do that, do whatever it is that you feel is best for your project. So anyway, going back to this here, I'll just for the sake of me talking through it, I'll turn down the sound for now. I
Yeah.
will also get rid of these audio tracks.
You already showed us how to do it
I
once,
already
so
showed us how to
we
do it
know, we
once,
know.
so you know how to do it, but just for my own OCD. So,
Okay.
so now there we go. So I'll play this through. As you can see, there's some edits now that are happening, and I've added a few things here too.
Yeah.
So what have I added? These little weird little things here in between my clips. Are these other clips? No, they are transitions. I'll just
If
use
you
the
could zoom
plus.
in for us a little.
Yeah, I'll use the plus sign to zoom in here. And I have a few different things happening. Cross dissolve and constant power. Both of these are what you might call a fade, right? It's just
Mm.
fading my video or fading my audio or cross fading, if you will. You can call this many different things. Basically, what that's doing is it's taking one video that's playing right now and it's kind of mixing it with the next video that's about to play. So what you end up with, and I'll just scrub through, is if you could kind of see that. Let's see if I have a, there we go. Right?
Right. So it's like blending of the audio and the video in that
Yeah.
little segment.
And how you do that, let's say I wanted this later on, I don't know, just arbitrarily, this clip here, I have this, charcoal going into, me just picking at it. So let's say I wanted to crossfade there. There's many ways, I think, to do this, of course. I like to use the hotkeys for it. So it's Shift D.
Okay.
Shift D.
So you have to have your playhead right in between.
Yes, yeah, you have to have your player head right in between. I like to just click on, the in between, the cut. So there we go.
Totally.
And now I have Shift D, and you'll notice that it's pretty long in my click.
Yeah.
So the fade actually is long. It actually, if I play it back, it's kind of a long fade.
Slow, yeah.
So if I don't want that, or if I want it even longer, I can extend it, or I can, make it shorter. Let's say I want it kind of like half of that. And my audio, maybe I don't even need a fade for my audio, so I can actually delete these. Oops, mistake there. There we go. So now I have just a video cross dissolve. So that's all I needed. And I didn't need my audio cross dissolve, so cool. Like I'm good actually there.
Perfect.
And I can make that, and I think I can actually drag this over. Oh no, I can't. Oh no, what I was trying to do is do this here. Yeah, okay, so Shift again. If you hold Shift again, just hold it down and take one of your cross dissolve or transition little, I don't know what you call this, like icons. And if you're holding Shift, you can actually just do the cross dissolve towards one clip. You can
extend it one end or the other, yeah.
Yeah. So if you really wanted that kind of control, you can do that. Nice. I will say too that there are other effects, so I wanted to kind of like go into that just a little bit. Under your, usually it's like sort of grouped within your project panel. If you look over here, there's an effects panel here. If you don't have that, you can go up to your window at the top toolbar, and you can click any of these to bring them up.
Yeah, bring it up. Perfect.
So where are my transitions? Like if I forgot my hotkey, that is Shift D, and I totally forgot what that is. I don't know what the name of this thing is. So I go here, go to video transitions, and great, dissolve is right at the top, and I can use cross dissolve to bring that in, and great, that's how I can do that. There's other ways to dissolve. There's other ways to, let's say, do a page peel if I really wanted a page peel turn. Yeah.
Perfect.
Microsoft PowerPoint
just a touch,
just a touch. so anyway, those are your transitions. You have effects here too. There's so many effects. I'm not going to go into all the effects. We will be going into Lumetri Color in just a little bit. But how are we doing on time, Fabiola?
We've got about 30 minutes. Okay. I was about to give you a little 30-minute warning and a little reminder for everyone tuning in here. If you have questions for Cyrus, drop them in the chat. That way he can answer them and you can start creating your own food videos for social. And a little reminder here, if you want to nominate yourself or someone you know to be a guest on Adobe Live, like Cyrus is doing now is your chance. You can submit your recommendations for creatives in the tab over on Behance. So if you're watching on Behance, there's a little tab and you'll be able to submit and nominate a guest. Maybe way to leave more details on that in the chat. And anyway, Cyrus, what's next for us here?
Yeah, so what is next is just kind of zooming out. I have a good edit. I'm feeling good about this. Now, for me, because this isn't like a commercial project or anything, I know that like I'll probably edit this even more later. Right. But for now, it's like a good baseline. Okay. So I'll just use this edit, which is edit B in my case. Mm-hmm. I'll go back to my project here. Edit B, and I'm going to use this to move on to color and sound. Now, color and sound, like normally I would say in like a commercial setting or even a documentary setting, sometimes those things are going at the same time. So you might send something out to a colorist and a sound designer or a sound engineer to do the sound and sweeten everything. And that's sort of going on at the same time. It's just me. Most of us, it's just us, right? So. Right. I usually like to do color first. Doesn't matter what you like to do first. It's really up to you. I find that doing color, like, it's just like I want to make my footage look good as soon as possible. So I like doing color at first after the edit.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to take off some of the color here, actually.
Yeah, we have a question here in the
Oh,
chat from
cool. Yeah.
Efren John Demain asking if you're using C-Log on this video. So maybe you could do a quick little bit on that, just
Mhm.
to get everyone on the same page.
Yeah, this is a whole other class, but yes, I'm using C-Log 3 with a C Cinema Gamut, I think. So it's very flat. But what that means for everyone who hasn't like used a cinema camera yet or anything like that, basically what you want in your image when you're using a higher end camera is you want all the data that you want, right, or that you need. I don't want to leave out any data. Actually, here you can see this window right next to me is almost blowing out. It's like too much. You can't even see any detail in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like that's the kind of thing that I don't want to happen in my filming. I want to be able to preserve as much detail as I can in my food. So I like to shoot with a cinema camera because I'm able to color correct very comprehensively and very
Right.
specifically. If I were to shoot on my phone, which is totally fine, usually you don't need to color correct that. It like looks great. But if you did color correct it, there's not as much data in there. So you'll notice your image starts to like fall apart, if you
Right.
will.
You can't fine tune it as much as you
Yeah.
could had you
Hmm.
shot um, in C-Log on another camera that is capable of shooting that, like
Yeah.
you've done here on this footage, which is why, like you said earlier in the stream, it looks kind of flat, it looks kind of gray.
Looks kind of
Um,
flat. Yeah.
that's because you haven't polished it, you haven't color graded it yet, and now we're gonna get right into that. So,
Yes.
Efren, you were on the ball with that one.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So as you can see here, I just copied my edit B just for the sake of this lesson here.
Cool.
So let's say I'm on my first clip and like I don't have any color correction happening here at all yet.
Right.
So first thing is I want to bring up my Lumetri Color. So you'll
Mm-hmm.
notice that there's a Lumetri presets here. If you drop that down, there's a lot going on. And I
Yeah.
really recommend you look through all of these and just like explore what Premiere
Play
has
around.
just built
Yeah.
into it. It's like very powerful. But what we're going to do is just totally customize it. So
Perfect.
what we want is actually Lumetri Color. That's it. And there it is.
Nice.
So all
Okay.
I have to do is like click and drag that onto my clip. Bam. Go over to my effects controls. And you'll see, obviously, all my effects controls are here, but then we have Lumetri Color now.
Right.
So
And
that's a
before
new,
that wouldn't have been available under effects. You wouldn't see that
that wouldn't be
naturally.
there. Yeah, normally it looks like something like this. So we've added this effect in here, and you'll
Perfect.
notice there's a lot going on already, and we haven't even dropped down these fields yet.
Right.
So there are I'll just drop all of them down just to
Open it
kind of
all
give you
up.
a preview of
Now
what's
we're
in
all
Lumetri Color.
overwhelmed.
Now you're all overwhelmed, but we will be going through a lot of this right now.
Perfect.
Uh,
Let's do it.
this is, I would say, a side of Premiere and just video editing in general that a lot of people are very scared of. And I think
Yeah.
rightfully so. I think color grading and sound designing are kind of magical in a way where it's like, what are you actually doing? Why are you doing it? Why does it look the way that it looks? Or why does it sound the way that it sounds? So it can be very daunting. But I wanted to give you, all of you, hopefully, a sort of baseline, a foundation, so that you can kind of go off of that. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing I like to do, and this is even in photos as well, so still images, but in video as well, go to your curves. So in Lumetri Color, if you go down to like the third field, there is your curves. And I don't really, I don't know. I don't know if I have enough time to go into like what curves is doing to your data, but basically there's this square here, right? So there's this square. This square represents your image in a way. It represents the luma, which is like the light that is in your image. It represents red, green, and blue, which let me try and get this thing up here. There we go. And blue. So what I like to do, again, this is all foundational for you. I won't go into crazy masking and all of that, but I like to use my Luma curve and do a little, you can see I'm adding, I think this is called a node. So just add a node, and all you have to do, I'm not doing any hotkeys, you just add a node. And then you add another one down here. And basically what this is indicating to you is like all of this down here is my shadows. It's like all the darker parts of my image. All of this up here is, they are my highlights. So all of the brighter parts of my image. So what I can do, and I'm going to do some extreme stuff just so you can see what's happening. So if I drop this way down, you can see my image is getting a lot darker, right? And you can see
contrast is all over the place.
It's all over the place, and I can even go fully up and down, and now I have like this crazy looking,
like a poster. Yeah.
It's a poster, you know. So if you wanted to posterize stuff, you can actually do that in curves. You don't have to use an effect necessarily. One thing to note about curves when you're working with them is that they're called curves, I think for maybe a reason. It's because generally I found that you don't want something like this. That's not a curve, right?
Right.
You want something that looks more like this, for example. And I'm not even looking at my image right now. We can get into that in a second, but something that is the reason why
too angular. Yeah.
The reason why you want this is because there's something called, for example, like fall off. And so you can see on my face right now that I have a light right here, and you can see that there's like a little bit of a darkness, and then there's light, and then there's parts of my face that are kind of blending the two, right? So that's fall off. And if I have this posterized kind of effect, there's like no fall off. Every color, every part of my brightness and darkness, they're being separated.
And flattened completely.
And flattened completely. There's like no depth here. And you know, this is an extreme example, of course, but you can see what that means in terms of curves is that I'm getting rid of all of that fall off, which in this case, in my case, I don't want that. I want to keep it so that I have a nice, rich image. So the other thing that you're doing with curves and just with color grading in general is your Lumetri Scopes. So Lumetri Scopes is a way for you to, I don't know how to say it, mathematically in a way, indicate to you if you're doing what you're doing is right or correct in a way. So I'll show you that in a second. So normally you don't have Lumetri Scopes kind of up as default, I don't think. So what we're going to do is go over to your window, and you could choose workspaces and go to color, and that's going to change your whole workspace to kind of cater to color correction or color grading. What we're going to do, all we need is Lumetri Scopes, right? So you're going to click on that, and what that's going to do is pull up this thing. So maybe you've seen this. Yes. I'm going to make this a little smaller. Maybe not. I don't know. It looks very wizard-like.
Yes, it does. It looks very mysterious. So tell us how we're going to read this or use this tool here.
So if I play this clip or just the sequence itself, you'll notice lots of movement is happening. And every time a clip changes, like this kind of changes too. And again, I haven't color graded the rest of this. So notice how there's a lot of information in here. There's nothing up here and there's nothing down here. This is because I shot flat, right? All of my information with C-log, I should say, right? All of my information is kind of like sandwiched into here. What I want to do, my goal in color grading in this scenario is I want to like bring that out. I want to stretch all that data out so that I have things that are kind of residing up here, which is like the brightest parts of my image. And I also want some stuff to kind of go here because I have like charcoal, right? Charcoal is going to show up dark in my image. I want that. I don't want it to look like this where it's kind of grayish. So
we want bright brights and dark darks have that range of contrast in your image to make it punchy.
And this is totally personal to you or to the project that you're working on. Maybe you're working on a film and it requires some different kinds of methods, but in this case, that's what I'm trying to do. And now, how do you read this? Like, what is happening in this thing? So I'll go to, let's say, this
And
clip
Cyrus,
here.
before you get started, a little
Yeah,
20-minute warning for
20-minute
you.
warning. Okay. All
And I
right.
want to remind anyone just tuning in that we're here with videographer Cyrus Yoshi Tabar to learn his process for editing food content for social media. Right now, you're tuning into the color editing section, color correction section, and he's showing us how to use Lumetri Color and the Lumetri Scopes to do that. So, all right, I'll let you keep on going.
All right, cool. Yeah, and thank you for the 20-minute warning. I'm going way too detailed into color, but maybe that's good. So, so Lumetri Scopes, how do you even read this? So if you look at these numbers here, they're very small. Let's see if I can, there's numbers here. Right below the media
Yes.
browser, you see that 100, right? So what that's telling us is that there are values in your image from 0 to 100. And just that's pretty much it. 100 is like the brightest bright that you can have. Usually if your image is hitting 100, that stuff that's hitting 100 is blown out. It like there's no detail
Too
in it.
much, yeah.
It's too much. Whereas on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you're at 0, if everything's at 0, then you'll see. Actually, I'll just show you. If I bring everything down, right, my image gets very dark. That's because look at all what's happening in my Lumetri scopes. Look at what's happening in my curves. Obviously, I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go to a new clip here, go back to effects, drag Lumetri Color onto it just so that we have a new clip to work with.
Okay.
And if we see here, I'll just play this clip. Cool. Same kind of thing, right? It looks grayscale
flat,
almost. Yeah. You can see here that it is very flat because it's residing between 20 and 70, 80. So what do? All right, let's go to our curves and let's like really dive into this. So I'm just going to show you what I do to my videos for this clip. So I'll generally try to get my shadows first or my darkest points first. And you can see it's definitely affecting my video.
The image.
Yeah. And I like to, this is just my personal preference. I like to get halfway with curves. Meaning, like, for example, I kind of like the way this looks, but I'm going to do not as much. I'll go halfway on that one. And you'll see why in
You're holding it back a touch.
Yeah, hold it back just a touch.
Okay.
Because I don't want to get rid of data, right? I want to preserve as much data as I can in my curves.
And so you're doing that both at the bottom of the curve and at the top of the curve, going at the top. Just a touch beyond where you would maybe want it. And
notice too that the curve looks the way it does. If I go if I go the other way, you see what happens. It makes it even
narrowing it. Yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah, this node is actually taking my shadows down. This node is taking my highlights a little bit up.
Perfect. Okay.
Right? So let's just say that's good. That's my sort of halfway point. I'm halfway to where I want to be. Notice my Lumetri scopes. I'm not clipping, or I'm not going out of the brightest, and I'm not going out of the darkest. So we're in a good spot. The next thing I want to show you is basic correction. So basic correction, there's a lot going on here.
Another drop down right there.
With the drop down, yeah, there's a lot going on in basic correction. It doesn't seem like basic, right? It seems like pretty complicated, but actually I will show you how to make it kind of basic for you. So don't even look at this. Don't even look at input LUT. We're not using an Alexa. We're not using a Phantom right now. So I'm not even gonna touch that.
Okay.
What I will go to is exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks, right? All within the light section. And so here, if I adjust exposure, it's going to adjust everything on my clip. So I can do that. I can go down here, right? So you can see my Lumetri scopes are adjusting in that sort of way too. In this case, I don't really need, I exposed correctly, I guess. So good, good on me for that.
Solid.
But maybe I want to spread this out a little bit. I want more dark points in my image. I want more light points in my image. So I'll go here to contrast, for example, and I can spread that out a little bit.
Okay.
But notice how the gyoza is starting to lose some of its detail.
Yeah.
So first off, maybe I can say, well, did I expose this correctly? And I can actually go back to, I can go back here and I can go back to my scopes and reset, and I can see detail in there. There's for
Mm-hmm.
sure detail in there.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, maybe it's the way that I'm color correcting. So my contrast, I'll bring that down a little bit. Again, I'm kind of just trying to like take baby
Find that sweet
steps.
spot. Yeah.
Yeah, baby steps towards it. So I'll reset that. I'll start to kind of edge a little bit up there. And then with my highlights, I can bring those down even maybe, right?
Mm-hmm. To
And then I
recapture
can
some of the detail on the
recapture
gyoza.
some of the detail, yeah, in the gyoza. And basically I'm just trying, there's no necessarily like right or wrong way to that process. It's just kind of keeping track of your scopes and the actual image, really.
Got
That's
it. So
really
it's
what you're
like a
trying.
mixture of instinct and practice almost, right? Because
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
practicing every time that you do this, you probably get a little faster.
yeah.
And what
Hmm.
you're trying to edit for, in this case, the food.
Yeah, yeah. So let's start to go a little bit fast forward, right? Just for the sake of time. And I have this sequence where I've gone ahead and color corrected this clip here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then these clips are not corrected
Still flat. Yeah.
because I want to copy and paste these attributes, right?
Right.
So I'll just show you just for the sake of it too. Here's what my curve looks like for this one.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty simple.
Yeah.
And then here's what my basic corrections look like. So contrast is way up to 150. I brought my
And your
white up
saturation is up
and my
too.
saturation is up. So I
Cool.
just want it like almost crunchy in a way,
Yeah.
just like really rich and like sharp in a
Yeah.
way without having to touch the sharpness. So I can do, again, I can go here, Command C, copy, select all my clips here, paste attributes, and excuse me, I want to deselect motion,
Right.
go to
Because
color,
we're
Lumetri
focusing
Color,
on, yes, those
mhm,
other effects.
and
Perfect.
then say okay. And now all of these clips have that same Lumetri color
And
that
they're
I
all the
applied.
same, which is so nice, consistent.
Yeah, yeah. So now I can see, okay, this is looking good. I can scrub through. Oh, like there's some blown out gyoza there again. And
Mm,
look at my scopes. I'm definitely
right.
hitting 100. I'm hitting like 95, 98. That's pretty high.
Yeah.
So I'll want to go back into my Lumetri color and try to bring those highlights down while still maintaining a vibrant image. So
Just for
again,
that clip, you'll go back just for
just for
that
that clip.
There you
Yeah,
go. Okay.
just for that clip. So how you do that is just click on that one clip and go in and say, okay, let's
Start fine
try
tuning.
highlights, let's try that. That does a lot for me. So that's
Yeah.
cool, that's great. So maybe it's as simple as the highlights, maybe it's a little bit more of everything else, so
Yeah, because the
yeah.
action maybe changed the way that clip looked when you filmed it, and
Hmm. I
things
off yeah. Yeah, yeah.
things get affected throughout the recording process, and you can still edit for that even when you apply an effect across all
Yeah.
the clips. You're still able to fine tune individual clips. As a
Hmm.
little heads up, Cyrus, about a little bit over 10 minutes to go.
Okay.
So what do you want to do here in your last 10 minutes?
Well, let's do a little bit of sound. So,
I'm so amped for this part. I know
okay.
a lot of the chat was loving those sounds earlier, so I'm really excited to see how you're editing this.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, so sound is key, obviously, and you'll notice that I did some other corrections here in terms of
Mm-hmm.
color, like from the previous one. So just don't pay attention to that. This is for the sake of the class. But let's just say my next issue that I have to deal with is sound. So luckily my sound turned out okay. I'll just play this now. So cool, cool, great. I'm gonna turn off my scopes here.
Okay, yeah.
There we go. So what I'm doing here, and I'll show you just as with nothing, is my audio track mixer. That's the big
Mm,
key to all of this. So you can go to Window, Audio Track Mixer, and just click the sequence that you want your track mixer to be up for. That's not to be confused with the audio clip mixer, okay? So we're dealing with a track mixer. What that means is that I can apply effects to a whole track, meaning like A1 right here. The effect will be applied to the whole track, or I can do the whole master mix. So in my case, it's very simple. I only have, just this video. I don't have like dialogue. I don't have music.
Right.
I don't have any of that. That's stuff that I want to add later in the actual like Instagram app, just because there's other reasons for that. But so I want to apply it to the master clip. And how I do that is I'll just go here, none, none, none.
This is what it'll look like when you
This
first
is what it
open
looks
it
like.
up.
Yeah. And so I'll go here and, drop down. The first one I'm going to start with is my compressor. So I'm going to go to multi-band compressor. Now, you can double click that and go into it. And if I play, you'll see a lot going on here. Sorry for your ears if this is blowing out for you. My apologies. I can turn stuff down just in case. So already I have this crazy looking interface, right?
Mhm.
Don't be daunted by it. You can definitely dive into this like hardcore and go into it like very deep, and that's a whole other class. What I want to show you is this broadcast. It really helps. It really helps a lot. What that's going to do is it's going to bring up the lowest sounds that you have, the quietest sounds. It'll bring those up while keeping the loudest sounds down. So it kind of sandwiches things sort of in between into a sweet spot. You can just leave it like this usually, because we're going to sweeten it a little bit more. But what you can also do is go here and say, actually, I want to like change this. And what you should do yourself is wear headphones and listen to what this is doing to your audio, right? Mm-hmm. This section is your lowest sounds. This is your mids. This is your highs, right? And so that's kind of how it's broken up. This is the highest. This is sort of mid-high, mid-low, and low. And so you can, just go ahead. There's no right or wrong way necessarily. It's dependent on your audio itself.
Right.
So that's the multi-band compressor. I'm just going to leave it on broadcast.
Okay.
Right. Default. Cool.
Can you quickly play it with and without it on, just so we can get a sense of the difference?
So here's with it on. And that's off.
Yeah. You can hear it way better just with it on. Yeah.
And sound designers might be cringing at me or something because I'm using this, but like, I don't care. It's for social. So
it's for social. We got to keep it simple because you got to pump out a lot of it.
But also I've noticed that this compressor, the broadcast little drop down, is really great because it gives you that super rich audio that generally you kind of want with like this cooking stuff. So I like to use it. Then we will go to, if you really want to sweeten your audio, you can go to Filter and EQ and go to your Parametric Equalizer. Okay, all right. Parametric Equalizer. Then double click that. That's what this looks like. All right. Another crazy looking window. But all you have to do is kind of look here to get a baseline start. So you can do that. Or you can do your own custom thing. Mm-hmm. Lowest, bassiest sounds are down here. Your highest, tinniest sounds are up here. That's all you really need to know. And so here you can see I don't have much low end. That's okay. I don't really need it, right? I do have some mids, and my highs they're there, but they drop off. So I might want to sweeten this section a little bit, or maybe drop this down because it's too much. Maybe I need to move that around, or maybe I need to make it even bigger. This is all basically, affecting your signal path and the way that your audio sounds. So I just did some random stuff. So, yours will look a lot better than mine, or sound a lot better. Yeah,
because you just like play it, listen, and see how you're affecting the noise, which, you're not playing it right now because it sounds kind of loud. It's hard to get a reading of it when we're live, but that's what you would do over at home when you're editing this on your own.
Normally I just have the thing playing And you can loop it too by just going to loop here in your playback program window.
Yeah, and that's when you listen to
So
the same thing for like hours.
yeah, yes. And then the last effect I want to show you is again in amplitude and compression is the hard limiter. This is great because it will avoid just clipping your sound, which means that I don't want to get to this. So if I play this right now, that's great. My audio isn't hitting zero. It's not hitting zero right now. So actually I'm like in a good spot. But for example, let's say I was, I can just use the hard limiter to bring that down. And I'll do an extreme example right now. I'm going to go to negative 80.
So you can see how it's working.
So you can see in my audio levels what this is doing. So if I play it again,
yeah,
it's nothing because it's way too
limiting
quiet.
it.
It is limiting. There we go. Okay, now we can see. See, it's limiting it to around a little less than negative 40. Yeah. If I bring that up, it'll limit it to negative 20.
And where do you usually keep this at, the maximum?
Usually it's like pretty close to zero. I would say like negative 5-ish is pretty good. The thing that you have to keep in mind too with social is that you'll notice here, and I'll just go to my final video here, is that we're at like almost a little under a minute, but also there's no text, right? There's no music or anything. These are things that I like to add later in the app. Got it. Because I don't know, I think the algorithm prefers that. So, but yeah, so anyway, so sound, those are the three things that I wanted to show you is multiband compressor, parametric equalizer, and hard limiter. And those are the three I feel like give you a very good foundation of like sweetening your audio. There are so many other effects that you could use to do that, but this is generally, I would say, a simple way to kind of go about that.
Yeah, and by putting them on the master mixer track as opposed to the individual tracks too, you quickly affect your entire sequence as opposed to just one noise. And like you mentioned before, you're using those lav mics. If you had a lav pointed in one section and another lav pointed at another area of the set, you could kind of tweak each sound even further if you wanted to apply it per track.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, this keeps things very simple.
And so from here, you usually just export it over to social and you add those finishing touches in app?
Yeah, usually I'll have like a final pass on it. So I'll like trim it down even more if I really feel like I need to. I'll make some color adjustments if I need to, and even sweeten the sound even more. So it's kind of like my final pass is sort of everything coming together and whittling it down even more so that I have like the best thing that I could make. And then from there, I just kind of export it and airdrop it to my phone and upload it to whatever platform, Instagram, TikTok, that kind of thing.
Nice. And the cool thing about doing it this way too is that you're able to export it and add the in-app stuff per app. So if you wanted the text from Reels, you get that custom Reels in-app text. The text from TikTok, a lot different than the text on Reels, you get that. So you're able to kind of customize and look really like native to that app while still using Premiere Pro, just because it's a lot faster and a lot more fine tuning that you can do here. You can't do this level of color correction or sound editing in one of the apps. So this is a lot better to get that crispiness that you're looking for food content.
Yeah, definitely. Crispy is a really great adjective. Yeah,
crispy
for this.
Visuals, crispy audio, everything crispy, final gyozas. So
yeah.
I love it. Wow.
So yeah, so that's pretty much it. This is actually coming from a video that I did with this company called Wolf and Grizzly, but they were working together, and so you'll see this on my page, on my TBBQ page in a couple weeks. Perfect. But yeah, just wanted to share that with you.
Yes, Cyrus, thank you so much for sharing your workflow with us, teaching us so much about how to edit in Premiere Pro during this session. You showed us how to prep a sequence, make our selects, color correct, sound design, and so much more. I know you inspired so many content creators everywhere on our stream today. If you missed any part of the stream or want to replay it, remember to follow Adobe Live on YouTube so you can catch the replay or even just rewatch it so when you're editing at home. Now go follow Cyrus over at TBBQ on Instagram so you can see this video out live, and stay tuned for a new episode of Adobe Firefly Weekly, an interactive session using the new Adobe Firefly. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Cyrus, and everyone on the stream. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Bye.